Devils have huge decisions to make. Major changes incoming. Players need new contracts. Players need new teams. Implications here. Let's talk about it. Welcome in to Devils Digest. Glad you're here with us today. Hope you'll stay and hit that subscribe button and talk some Devils hockey all summer long. Now, when the regular season ended, obviously Tom Fitzgerald unhappy, alluded to change. He says that we're not coming back with the same group. Now, when he says something like this, he's more so talking offensively. Defensively, the contracts are kind of already set in stone, kind of there. He's got a few young defensemen who are trying to still get into the mix. When you look offensively, though, and what this team did this year offensively, 20th in goals. Really struggled down the stretch. When they lost Jack Hughes, didn't really have a second line center position. They were trying to figure out, or first line center position. They were trying to figure out their bottom centers, felt like all year long. Didn't seem like anybody really took that third or fourth line position. So when he says something like that, and we're gonna make changes, not coming back with the same group, you kind of can see by how the contracts are set up, by how this team performed, it really is looking at the offense. Now, going over some of those players, who need a new deal. First, take a look up at Daniel Sprong. Now, Devils made a trade at the trade deadline. I think kind of a shocker. I don't even know if anyone really knew that Daniel Sprong was on the trade board, or, Devils specifically were looking at him. But he came over, played for New Jersey, and his full season of work, 30 games, 2 goals, 5 assists, played with 3 different teams, 7 points, only played 1 playoff game. He played in game 1, but that was kind of a short tenure playoff time. He's a UFA, and we'll see what the Devils do. Nate Bastian, 59 games, 10 points. Fourth line player in the bottom 6. Has some size, not a ton of speed, but 59 games, 10 points. Probably expected a little bit more. And then Cody Glass, who, like I said, it felt like all year long, Devils were trying to figure out that third, fourth line center spot. Glass, I guess, put a Band-Aid over it. 65 games, 6 goals, 22 points, 7 points in 14 games with the Devils. So maybe a little bit, even with the 22 points in 65 games, doesn't tell the full story. Now, with those 3 players and what I think that will happen, I don't think there's a shot Daniel Sprong or Nate Bastian come back. Nate Bastian's been here for a while. They've actually, brought him back after letting him go in the expansion draft. Been here for a while. Kind of stayed as the same player. You want to make changes? Well, that's kind of a little bit more of an easier one. A player who, obviously, fan favorite, but a player who, is kind of probably hit his ceiling. He's kind of, that, 15-point, 10-point player who, good penalty killer, but probably doesn't add a ton of offense. Not extremely, fast or anything. Daniel Sprong, look, I think that one was a little bit more obvious. Didn't really work out. You made a trade for him, and then you're healthy scratching him basically every single night or every other night. 1 playoff game. You're down 3-1 in the playoff series. You don't really find a way to make him fit into this offense. Another player who I would assume is going to go. Look, they couldn't find a fit. Now, when they traded for Daniel Sprong, I actually thought, kind of an underrated move. A player who has scored 20 goals in the past, who has, been an effective player. Clearly, the Devils thought different once they got him over here. They didn't really play him. So that was kind of obvious. Cody Glass, though, that's an interesting one. Because, look, where the Devils were using him in that middle 6 center role, probably not the position you want him in. But as a 4th line center, if you can get him, around 2 years at, just under $2 million, and now that would be not as good as his most recent contract. If you get him at around that price, that could be interesting, because the Devils are kind of, looking for both a third and a fourth line center. Because when you go over, you look at their current bottom six, it's just not enough. Now, I know Gritsuk might be coming over, and I've said it before, I think he's a top 6 forward. I like to see him work with a little bit more skilled players. Could be already a first replacement. But when you look at the group, there's not a ton of scoring here. And obviously, Tatar is already gone. Just signed overseas. So, Tatar already gone. Obviously, you have Cotter and Nason locked up. Outside of that, you really look at it, you definitely have some holes. Now, I've said it before. I'm a big believer. The best way to build your depth is to go and get top 6 forwards, to get star power, to move guys down the lineup. I mean, that's what they did. They were able to do with Nason on some nights. But there were other nights where Stefan Nason was a top 6 forward. That probably isn't going to work. Maybe, kind of a reason why you're finishing 20th in the league in goals. So I'm a big believer in, fixing your depth by adding top 6 forward talent. But you also have to have guys in your bottom 6 who, can fit the role, who are able to play in the bottom 6, who fit your style. And that's kind of where I wanted to go with my next point. You look at the Devils offseason, this past offseason. They really wanted to get bigger, show more size. And there were things that worked. They definitely were a tougher team. You definitely couldn't push them around as much. They definitely, were up in the hits category, a lot more hits this season. But you look at the DNA, and when this team was successful and had, the 50-plus win season just 2 years ago, when this team was one of the top scoring teams in the NHL, when you looked at that team, what their DNA was, is they were fast and they were great in the transitional game. Teams couldn't necessarily keep up with them. They kept coming in waves, kind of like the Panthers, but instead of, the Panthers, a little bit more physical. They're good on the back check. Devils, maybe a little bit more looser, not as much, gonna grind it out, but I mean, that's kind of what they were looking to in this offseason. And are those players necessary? Absolutely. I mean, Florida's just gone to their 3rd straight Stanley Cup final, doing something along those lines. But when you look at the DNA, and you look at, the core of this team, and, the Jack Hughes, the Jesper Bratts, the Timo Meiers, the Nico Hischiers, outside of, really Meier, this team is more of a skilled finesse team. It's not so much about playing that, run and gun game and, you're going to, try and make a hit. No, that's not really this team. This team needs to focus on speed. So when I look at bottom 6 replacements, I'm looking for a little bit more speed. Obviously, you want to be physical and you can be physical, but this team definitely needs a little bit more of that. You think back, when they were really successful, their 4th line center was Mikey McLeod. Mikey McLeod had a ton of speed. This year, you're going with guys like Justin Dowling, Kurtis Lazar, Cody Glass when you had him there. This team needs more speed in the bottom 6. That's their DNA. That's when they were successful. That's what they need. So, we've heard a couple players who could potentially be out there. All of a sudden you're starting to hear Pavel Diofiev's name kind of roll around. Marco Rossi, possible, offer sheet. There's a few names out there. But when you're looking to build this team, you have to get a little bit quicker in your bottom 6. Last offseason, you fixed the physicality. You got rid of Tyler Toffoli. Tyler Toffoli never got replaced. Why was it a need earlier and then it all of a sudden didn't become a need? That was a little interesting to me. But when you look at the Devils, definitely need more speed in their bottom 6. And, that's something that they should definitely look to. And I assume hopefully Tom Fitzgerald will look to in this offseason. Hope you're going to be here with us throughout the offseason. Hopefully you hit the subscribe button and we can keep talking some Devils hockey. Appreciate you guys listening to today, and I'll see you guys really soon.